Hello, everyone. Let me send out a tweet to say that we are live. Come on, come on, come on. Enthralling TV, I'm sure, right now. Okay. Welcome to the Voice of College Football SEC channel. I am Zach Ramilius with Missouri Tigers Live. We do have a Mizzou channel. Go ahead and subscribe to that, the Voice of College Football Missouri, M-I-Z, David, Z-O-U, as we talk more about last week's game against Auburn, what it means for this team, and then we'll flip the page. It's Bama week. It's not the biggest game for Mizzou in the last 12 months. That was Georgia last year, but it's a big one, and it's going to be season-defining for both teams. So, yo, what's good, man? Sorry, I said that really awkwardly. So, Mizzou, coming off the win against Auburn. You've heard it a million times about that game, man. What a performance in the fourth quarter by Brady Cook. He wasn't perfect. He missed some throws. But, man, when you had to have it, he got it because he is a special player for the University of Missouri. For you guys in the chat, I've been around Mizzou football now for 20 years. Not almost 20 years. Post Brad Smith. So the quarterbacks I remember that left an impact at Mizzou: Chase Daniel, Blaine Gabbert, James Franklin, Matty Mock, Drew Lock, Brady Cook. Kelly Bryant just wasn't healthy. Connor Bazelak, less said, better. I believe he was pretty good in 2020. Where does Brady Cook rank for you guys? Ooh, the wrong thing. That was a Texas thing. Why is that in my folder? Whatever. Where does he rank? Because for me right now, he's third. He's behind He's behind Daniel, who, short of Mizzou winning a natty this year, he can't pass Daniel, and Mizzou's not going to win the natty. He could pass James Franklin for me, though. He could become second. Gabbert and Locke had some great moments, but they didn't. Gabbert did have the 110 win season, but that was more defensive led. Like, Gabbert was more hypothetical, while Locke and Mock was just, Mock did some really nice things. But Cook is third. I like Brady Cook. I'm going to stop trying to be so mean to him on Twitter because, man, like, where does Brady Cook rank for you guys in recent Mizzou history? Like, post 2005. Like, post 2005, where is he? And we got an answer, David. I would put him behind Chase and Brad Smith. I didn't include Brad Smith. I didn't watch a ton of Brad Smith. I'm 28. I didn't really start watching football until like 2006, and that was Chase's first year of a starter. I don't remember a lot of Brad. That should be a question mark there, but where does Brady Cook rank for you? Because after this weekend, he's third. You had like Franklin, you had a tough season. At Franklin, it was 2012. Cook, it was 2022. You had an outstanding season. For James Franklin was awesome in 2013 until the bowl game against Oklahoma State. And then and they still won it. And then Cook was pretty good. Franklin was pretty good in 2011. I think Cook has a chance to finish strong in this season to kind of become like that quarterback. I think he's delivered more than Locke and Gabbert. Now, he's had better teams than Drew Lock has, obviously, but I think Brady Cook, man, I'm so happy for the kid. Like, he grew up in St. Louis, and he grew up a Mizzou fan. Grew up in St. Louis. Was wearing Chase Daniel jerseys, which it's so weird for me now that I'm older that guys that I started watching when I was like, I started really getting into sports at like 10, 11. These kids were like 8 and 7. And how old's Brady Cook? Brady Cook's going to be 23. Yeah. Went to my high school. He's a little younger. My brother went to Chaminade. He's a little younger than a little older than Brady Cook. My brother's 2 years younger than me. My brother was there with Tatum. But Chaminade's got some great athletes, man. But for as much crap as we've given Brady Cook, and we will, like, I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, I won't criticize him because of whatever. I still will, but he's been, man, what a story. But let's dive more into the details as I'm finished now talking about Brady Cook. Thank you guys for being here for the Voice of College Football, Mizzou. I know we're on the SEC channel. We will be on the Mizzou channel soon. I promise. We'll have our own channel. We'll do our own thing. But subscribe, like the video. Subscribe to the SEC channel. Subscribe to all, like, why not? Why not? Like and subscribe, guys. There's no reason not to. It doesn't cost anything. But we'll see. And now let's I gotta stop talking about Brady Cook. Let's talk about Alabama. The game's here. Here we go. Everything is now in front of the table for Mizzou. The playoff is still on the table. Winning the SEC is still on the table. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's still on the board. What needs to happen to Alabama to win this game? I think the big one for me, and I've been hammering this point all year for Missouri, I've been hammering this point all year. It's a part of the problem why this offense has struggled compared to last year. Explosives. All offseason, we talked about how Mizzou has a top receiving core in the nation. It's up there with like Oregon, Ohio State. Preseason OU had a lot of hype, and all their guys are hurt. We had a lot of hype about this receiving core, and thus far, due to quarterback play and themselves, it just hasn't lived up. If there's a week to do it, it's on the road in Tuscaloosa against that defense. That Alabama defense is really leaky. It is super leaky on the back end. And David brought up, can you hit your shot plays? If Luther Burden has a big game, he's going to be a top 10 pick. I know this is a decade ago, but part of the reason Sheldon Richardson was a top half of the draft pick was because against Alabama he had like 10 tackles and 3 tackles for a loss. Mizzou got murdered, but he was great. So my thing with this game is, in the last decade, since Mizzou's been in the SEC, they've played Alabama 4 times. 2012, in the first year in the SEC, Corbin Bergstresser, bless his soul, he's still alive, just he got killed in that game, and they lost 42-10. Now, that was a great Alabama team, won a national championship. There's just nothing you can do about that, obviously. 2014, Mizzou gets the SEC championship game, and they played Bama pretty tough. It was 21-13 going into the fourth quarter. Now, Bama was on the doorstep of scoring, but they were right there. And they'd hit some explosives in that one, kind of kept them around to Jimmy Hunt, and actually it was all Jimmy Hunt. But Bama did Bama things. Bama did Bama things, and they won 42-13. Now, in 2018, under Drew Lock, they went into Alabama. They were missing a couple of their receivers. It was like a 40-point spread. And they lost by 29. Like, it was a weird, 29-point loss where you didn't feel too bad about it. Because that Bama team at that juncture we all thought was a flying death machine with those receivers and Tua. We're like, oh, all right. It was 13-10 at one point. Wee! Like, no moral victory. I hate moral victories, but wee! And then 2020, they played COVID year in Columbia. I had in front of half a crowd. Mac Jones was awesome. It was like 38-3, and Mizzou scored a couple garbage touchdowns or whatever. Mizzou's played Bama 4 times, and they have gotten killed all 4 times. They've had some success against LSU. They've had some success against Ole Miss. Tennessee, they're like 500. Auburn, they're 500. They haven't really had any success against Georgia, but they've played a couple of big games against Georgia and fought pretty hard. Can Mizzou find a way to get a win in Tuscaloosa? We'll find out. They've only played there. Weirdly, they've only played there once since joining the SEC. It's kind of like Georgia and A&M. Like, Georgia's never played at A&M, which is really goofy. But what Mizzou needs to do to win this is those receivers have to make plays. Weiss, Burden, Mookie, Manning, they need to make plays. And Norfleet chip in every once in a while. Now, Tennessee did a good job of running the football too, because that's just what Tennessee does. Tennessee's a good running football team. They do a better job of it than Mizzou does. Noel, Carroll, whoever, if Noel's healthy. Completely agree, and then we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Noel, Carroll, whoever's carrying the football, they're going to need to find holes. This Bama defense is not what it's been. The offense is great. We'll talk about here in a second. But if Mizzou can get to 27 points, you have to feel really good about their chances of getting a win here. I don't know if that'll be enough, but if Mizzou can get to 27, it means you probably hit some explosives. You ran the ball effectively on the road in a tough environment. Bama doesn't done historically a great job after losing games the last couple of years, even under Saban. They lost to Texas last year. Then they really struggled with USF. This year they lost to Vandy. They really struggled with South Carolina. Now you got Mizzou. The offense is just going to have to hit big plays. Because defensively, I don't know if Mizzou can hold them under 20 points. I was doing Alabama post-game or an Alabama live show 20 minutes ago before I came on here. And one of the guys predicted 21-14 Alabama. Could certainly see that. But if you're – because who knows what's going to – who knows? But – and if Mizzou loses and Bama only gets to regret that one. Defensively, can you contain Milroe and let the Williams kid burn you? So Jalen Milroe is an interesting quarterback. He's a big, fantastic athlete who still's really spotty in the intermediate pass game. His deep ball is really nice, and Brian Williams isn't. He's 7 games into his college football career, and he's already. I can pretty much already tell you he'll be a top 10 pick in not the 2025, not the 2026, 2027 draft. He's going to be a top 10 pick. Him and probably Jameson Williams at Ohio State. He's going to see a lot of Dryden Norwood. Dryden Norwood's going to see a lot of them. I don't think they're going to put Pride. They'll probably put Pride on Bernard, the kid from Washington. And as far as containing Milroe, I think Mizzou did a decent job against Thomas Castellanos, who is wish Jalen Milroe. They kind of mush rushed it. They didn't really go after, they didn't pressure him too much. Like, he had time back. Because Castellanos had time back there, and that's how he hit a couple of the explosives. There was a 67-yard pass for a touchdown. But rushing-wise, Castellanos only went for 16 yards. Now, Milroe is a much better runner than Castellanos is, but it's a similar idea of what I think they're going to do. And they also played Diego Pavia, who's a baller, and Pavia went for 17 carries, 84 yards. That's 4.5 yards a carry. So here's the thing with Milroe that I'm interested by. I don't think Bama expected to have to run him a ton against South Carolina and Vandy. I mean, I'm pulling up his game log now just because I want to give you guys exact numbers. But he's run the ball a lot this year. He ran the ball 18 times last week against Tennessee. But that's kind of or 14 times. That's a game you expect him to have to run the ball a lot. Like, it's a big game. It's on the road, top 10 team. I know Tennessee was like 11th, but whatever. But he ran the ball 18 times against South Carolina. Against Georgia, 16 times, 7 times against Vanderbilt, 14 times against Wisconsin. Like, he's been running the football a lot. And they haven't had a bye week. So where is he at physically? And as big and strong as Milroe is, he still is a college kid that has now played 4 weeks of tough football in a row. Georgia, Vandy, South Carolina, who has a killer D-line, and Tennessee, who has a killer D-line. Where is he at? I don't think Mizzou's defensive line has played pretty well outside of the A&M game, and everything I'm about to say is caveat except for the A&M game. I think they're going to mush rush it. You're not going to see Johnny Walker fly upfield. You're not going to see Zion Young fly outfield or shoot. You're not going to see the D tackles shooting gaps. I think you're going to see a lot of mush rush. I think you're going to see them prevent the run game for Alabama really getting going and try to prevent explosives. Now, they're probably going to hit a couple. Milroe's really good at it, and Ryan Williams is stud, and DeBoer. I think DeBoer knows how big this game is. Unfair or not, we know what Mizzou's perception is as a program. It's not fair, but we know what the perception is. I don't think a 10-point Bama win would excite anybody, and they've got a bye week next week before they go to LSU. But this is a playoff elimination game to me. If Alabama gets to 3 losses, they still have to go to Tennessee or still go to LSU. They still have to play. They still got to play at OU, who at some point is going to get healthy. Again, that's starting to sound more like, when I find $1 million. But and then they're going to have Auburn. Do you see Corey Batoon using a lot of blitz? No, I don't. I think they're going to play pretty straight up. I don't think they want to give Jalen Mizzou by $1 million. Lord, would that be nice, my friend? I think they're going to play a lot of straight up. I don't think they're going to allow Jalen Milroe to start beating them in the explosive run game. Because if you start letting Jalen Milroe get 20-yard gains, 25-yard gains, again, I don't know if Mizzou can put up 30 points. They haven't shown that they can all year. It took overtime to do it against Vanderbilt. I don't think they can score 30-plus, even although the Alabama defense has been really leaky. I think they're going to play it pretty straight up. I don't see them trying to make a lot of big plays in the backfield. And they don't have Tennessee's D-line. They don't have a first-round pick like James Pierce. So I think they're going to mush rush it. They're going to try and keep everything in front of them, and then they're going to play red zone roulette. I think if Mizzou can force Bama to kick like 4 field goals, that's as good a chance as they're going to have. And now to this point, the difference is I think this roster is better. Yeah, no, this is the best roster Mizzou has had talent-wise. Now, last year's team was better. I don't think anyone would disagree, but talent-wise, like, this team can hang. I think a few weeks ago when they went to A&M, I think A&M started out hot. That's another that you can't let Bama. Whoever gets the ball first, like Mizzou they need a positive first drive, one way or the other, touchdown or a stop. A&M got out to a fast start. They got stuffed on 4th and 1. The PI call, whatever. A couple bad calls went Mizzou's way, and I think they quit. I don't like using that word, but I think they were just disheartened, and I think they were just like, okay, it's over. And they got run out of the building. And unfortunately, they got run out of the building, and if you lose this game, I think you're done. I don't think that happens tomorrow, or not tomorrow, good Lord, in a few days. We'll see, man. It's going to be a tough environment. I think this is a pretty good Mizzou team. If Mizzou plays as well as I think they can, I do think they can win this game. I'll give you my prediction later, but it's going to be tough. Like, they're going to need an A-plus effort. An A-plus effort could beat Alabama. And that involves hitting your explosives. That involves stuffing the run. That involves containing Jalen Milroe. And that involves limiting a good Alabama offense to like 24 points. Is how I think Mizzou wins this game. You got to limit them to 24, and can you get to 27? Can you get to 30? I don't know if they can. I'll talk about that here in a second. Or in a little bit what my prediction is for the football game. Now, as far as the macro, I love talking about the macro. Loser's done. I started going into this a little bit, but then people started commenting, and I wanted to respond to those comments because I'm a nice human being sometimes. I think Mizzou, with a loss, is done. I think you're going to see a glut. Love the Monday night updates. I see a glut. Can you see this? Can you see the reflection of my glasses? I kind of got it on. I think you're going to see a glut of 10-2 teams. Like Texas is a decent chance of being 10-2. They got to go to A&M, and actually, no, Texas is probably going to be okay. But like Georgia, Alabama, if they don't, no, the Alabama will have 3 losses. But you're going to see a glut. LSU, Texas A&M, potentially Texas, potentially Ole Miss. Georgia might have 2 losses, depending what they do in Oxford. And you're going to be at the back of that line because you got crushed. And that's not including other conferences. Like, what does Indiana look like? What is, potentially like a Penn State, although Penn State's probably going to be fine. Ohio State, you go to the ACC. Like, can the ACC get 3 teams in? What does SMU do? 3-loss Bama. Yeah, but I can't see Bama with a loss to Mizzou getting in over Mizzou if Mizzou goes 10-2. Now, if it's 3-loss Bama versus 3-loss Mizzou, or 2-loss Mizzou, because Mizzou loses to South Carolina, they'll try their darndest. But I don't think 3-loss Bama's getting in over like a glut of 10-2 SEC teams. And Bama still has to go to LSU. And if you can't beat Mizzou at home, and you can't beat Vanderbilt, and you lost to Tennessee, I've got some bad news of what I think is going to happen in Tiger Stadium. But for Mizzou, I don't think a 10-2 Mizzou team makes the playoff. There's just a glut of teams. You got blown out. Even if you lose by a touchdown this weekend. And I kind of agree, like if you lost by 4 scores, you probably shouldn't play for a national title. But I also don't think if you lose to Northern Illinois, you should be able to play for a national title, and that's probably going to happen unless one of the military schools can do us a favor and throw Notre Dame in those teams of that are going to kind of be in that glut. So, in the macro, like for the playoff hopes, this is an elimination game, and that's super fun because all the pressure is going to be on Bama. Now, last year Mizzou had a similar game. They went to Athens. They were like 11th in the country, 12th in the country going into the game, and Georgia was like 3rd. And Mizzou played really hard. No moral victories for me, but they played their butts off and had the ball at the 50-yard line down 6. and Brady Cook throws a pick with 6 minutes left to a D tackle. Ugh. But that's the kind of – because this Bama team is not as good as last year's Georgia team. That's the kind – and this Mizzou team, I don't think is as good as last year's Mizzou team right now. That's the kind of effort they're going to need to beat Alabama on the road. I know I'm not trying to make this sound like some impossible task. It's not. We saw South Carolina, who I think is a pretty comparable team to Mizzou as of right now. And South Carolina was a 2-point conversion away from no. South Carolina probably should have won that game. So it was 12-2. Thanks. I could not remember if Mizzou was 12 or 13 or like 11. I know Georgia was 2, but I think Mizzou can win this game, but it's going to require their best effort. A B game's not going to get it done unless you force Milroe to throw like 5 picks or something goofy happens. If you don't play your A+ game, you're going to have to like luck box your way to a victory, and that's just not going to happen on the road against Alabama. So the game's going to come down to, can you limit explosives? Can you make explosives? Lord knows DeBoer is going to scheme up a plan to get Ryan Williams some shots and Bernard some shots. Can you scheme up shots to Burden and Weiss? Can Josh Manning get some more snaps? Please, for the love of God, let him make some plays. It's going to come down to explosives. And if Mizzou gives up a crazy amount of explosives, like they did against A&M, especially in the run game, or if they can't get any on their own, or they're playing undisciplined crap football like they did at A&M, then they're going to get run out of the building. That's just what it is. Like, they're going to get run out of the building. If you can limit explosives and can you make some plays on your own? David, again, Mizzou can get a score on defense or special teams. Kirby Moore get Luther the ball early and often. Any kind of special team score or defensive score would be huge. They haven't shown a proclivity for him this year, but things happen. Dryden Norwood's going to need a big game because he's probably going to be matched up all night with Ryan Williams. Obviously, there's going to be safety help, but Lord, if Marvin Burks, Mizzou games don't start until Marvin Burks gives up an explosive. The weird thing about this year for Luther Burden is, in the past, Eli has done a really good, even with some crappy offenses, Eli's done a really good job of getting the ball to his slot receivers. Whether it was Bannister, or Dominic Lovett, Burden last year, he usually does a really good job of scheming up his slots. This year, I know Burden's getting all sorts of coverage and looks thrown at him. Obviously, he's going to be a first-round pick, and those guys are. You got to find a way. You just have to find a way. Burden, Luther, no touches. Yeah, it was like, and the first 2 touches he got were on that drive at the end of the half with Pine, where it was like, you're not trying to score here. Really, like, if you try and score, you're just going to give up a touch. You're going to give up a big, like a pick, or like you're going to punt and Auburn's going to make a play. Like, you're not trying to score. So maybe that was just to get him going a little bit. Because if he's not hurt, inexcusable to not give him. He's kind of like your star running back, where like if your team, like Derrick Henry, just because I got Ravens on, like if Derrick Henry doesn't, you got to get 18 touches for Derrick Henry. Wide receivers are going to be a little bit less. But in a game like this, with a bye week, this has got to be a home run effort. Burden probably needs to see at least 10 touches, maybe closer to 12 to 13. A couple of them in the run game, pass game, screens. This needs to be a home run effort from Eli. All in. Last year against Georgia, I think was a home run. I think they gave 2 home run efforts last year. I think Georgia they did, and Georgia was just too good. And that happens. And maybe that happens this weekend. But it needs to be a home run effort where you pull out everything. 2, and I think they gave 1 against Tennessee. I know they blew out South Carolina. They blew out Arkansas. But, I don't think that required you to play your A+ game. I think in those 2 games, they played A games and just made a couple mistakes. which is the next thing. Now, this is going to drive me nuts. So I did talk about, I think if Mizzou loses, oh, kitty sleeping. I think if Mizzou loses, their season's over. Especially if they get rocked, their season's over. But they have to play to win. Because I don't think they make the playoff with a loss. So you have to play to win. And if that means you make a bunch of mistakes and then you lose by 20, so be it. You're playing with you have to give a home run effort. Going for it on fourth and 2. Like, you can't be at like the 45 and punt. Blake Craig is not Justin Tucker. 4th and 5 at the 22. You need to go for it. Game flow will determine things as you get into the 3rd and 4th quarter. But at beginning, like this, you need to be aggressive. You need to put everything on the table. You have a bye week, and then you have OU that's reeling, and they play Ole Miss this week. And then they got Maine to get right. But, like, OU season could be pretty much over, like, even as far as bowl hopes after this week. You need to give a home run effort. Everything needs to be on the table. Trick plays. Eli ran so many trick plays when he first got here. Now he doesn't. It's really infuriating sometimes. I love Eli, but, like, this needs to be an all-in effort. Everything that's in that playbook, offensively, defensively, every look you can throw at Milroe, every look you can throw at Kane Womack and Maurice Linguist, you need to throw. And that's going to be an interesting wrinkle to this game is Corey Batoon. Kane Womack, now the D coordinator at Alabama. Corey Batoon was his D coordinator at USA, South Alabama. So, is there any advantages Mizzou can glean from that, or any advantages Bama can glean from that? It's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. Let me. Did I even make a score prediction right up? I did not. So let me go ahead and make my score prediction. I think it's going to be close. I think Mizzou is going to come in with a home run effort. And I think they're going to play really, really hard. Unfortunately, you're playing Alabama on the road. So my final score is Alabama 34, Missouri 24. I know I hate doing prediction shows, and I pick my team to lose. This isn't an emotional hedge either, where it's like, man, if Mizzou wins, but if they lose, I look right. Like, I really want them to win this game, for obvious reasons. I just think Bama has too many dudes. And I think this is a game where it is a one-possession game late. It's 31-24, 27-24. And Milroe or Ryan Williams just make a play. They just make a play. I think the biggest case we saw that from Missouri is last year against Florida. They needed somebody to make a play, and Luther Burden made a freaking play on 4th and 17. I think that's kind of what Bama does here. That's my score. I think it's going to be a really good effort, but unfortunately, no moral victories. And then Dave's got 27-20 to Mizzou. Brady adds to the legacy. I'll tell you what. If Brady goes into Bryant-Denny and gets a win, pull that back up. Why did that go away? He's the second best Mizzou quarterback of my lifetime. He blows by James Franklin. Because Franklin never had a huge road win. I don't know. Franklin did beat Georgia. But that was like an 8-5 Georgia team. A lot of similarities between that game and this game. Although Georgia's not missing – Bama's not missing the equivalent of Todd Gurley and Keith Marshall. Brendan Douglas, where are you? But yeah, no. If Brady wins this one, if you win this one, like we can talk about it. If you win this one, everything's on the table. I mean everything. If Mizzou wins this one, you need to root like hell for LSU against Texas A&M, and you need to root like hell for Texas against Texas A&M. Because then if you can get man, like, it doesn't matter if Mizzou doesn't continue to win, but I know. And then Bud Sasser threw the trick play to Damian Washington. It's like a Rolodex of Mizzou games up here, except the 2016 season. I don't remember a lot from that season. Probably for good reason. They went 4-8. I remember when they put up 78 against Delaware State. But everything's on the table, and that includes the SEC championship. If you win this game, that's on the table. You need to root for Texas A&M to lose a couple games. You need to root for Bama to beat LSU. Like, there needs to be some breaks. But could you get Georgia again in the SEC championship? Or no, you would need Texas A&M to probably beat Texas. I take it back. You would need Texas to find a conference loss somewhere. It could look like the 2014 season, man. Like, that team wasn't that great, but end of the year, hey, like, look, who's in the SEC championship? Missouri. All right, what did Georgia do? What the hell happened there? But this is a big one. It's not as big as Georgia last year because I don't think that Mizzou team would have won a national championship. But, like, if they were the 4 seed and they played Michigan, like, if they'd gotten to the SEC championship game, and, like, I think they would have given Alabama a fight. And if they win that, I think they would have given Michigan a fight. Like, I think that was a really tough team. They wouldn't have won the Natty, obviously, but I think it would have been super fun. But we'll see. We got one prediction. Anybody else have any predictions for this weekend? I think Luther goes for 100. I think Luther firmly puts himself into the top half of the first round. You see it a lot. Like, I think someone did a poll. It might have been on Rock M Nation or Power Mizzou or something. Sorry, I don't mean to give free publicity, but those are really nice websites. Like, if you take, like, all the mock drafts, like, his average is like 14th. Big game this weekend, he's going to be top half of the draft. He's probably, I think right now he's in a mix. Like, I think Teterow and McMillan has kind of cemented himself as wide receiver 1. Burden, with a huge couple games against South Carolina and Oklahoma and Bama, can put himself up there, obviously. But I think if a big game here puts him ahead of, like, Travis Hunter or who are the other receivers? Like, Isaiah Bond's come on really strong, but other than that, this is not a great receiver class, not a great skill position class, to be honest, or quarterback class. But I think Luther goes for over 100. I think Brady has his best game of the year. Maybe not statistical wise, but just, like, from pure viewing wise. Like, the numbers against Boston College look great, look pretty okay, but then anybody who watched that game knows, no, not great. So if Brady hits Luther early for a touchdown, hang on. Brady hits Luther early for a touchdown in Tuscaloosa like they did at Georgia last year. It's game on. Yeah, and that game, that was a pretty tight game throughout. Mizzou played really hard in that one. Georgia just made more plays. Yeah, no, if you can go out on the first drive and get a touchdown and get a stop, I think Mizzou forced a field goal. Yeah, they forced a field goal. If you can get a stop and get some points, because a field goal against Bama is a stop, and a lot of these good teams, they're stops. Yeah, no, you're now it's game on. And we'll see, because all the pressure's on Alabama. Like, there is pressure on Mizzou because of the expectations and weight coming into this year. But if Bama loses this game, you're 8 games into Kalen DeBoer's tenure, and it's like it's full-on panic because 8-4, maybe even 7-5 is on the table, which cannot happen at Bama. That just can't happen. I really hope Mizzou players just find a way to stay in the moment. And I know this is cliche, but, man, like, isn't this what you dream about? Like, especially if you're like Brady Cook or Luther Burden, you're going into Tuscaloosa, it's a beatable Bama team. This isn't last year. Or I won't even go last year. This isn't a prototypical Saban team. This Bama team's beatable. They're really, really beatable. Can Mizzou take advantage? I hope like heck they do, because that just would only have one team left you've never beaten since joining the SEC, which would be Mississippi State. And you only played them twice, and one was 2015. We don't talk about 2015. And 2020 they played them, and I think Sean Robinson was playing safety in that game. Sean Robinson started the year at quarterback, and he was playing safety in that game because of all the injuries and COVID and all the nonsense that was going on that year. And they're playing better football with not Martin Van Buren, but with Van Buren, the new quarterback. They've been playing some better football. They've kind of figured out that offense, which is super nice. Good for them. Thank you guys for being here for Missouri Live, the voice of college football. Hopefully we can get on the Mizzou channel soon. The links will be in the description. As will our Amazon. And then as it's Monday, a lot of the lines are coming out. Mizzou's a 13.5-point favorite, which some people are but I kind of get it. You give Bama probably 3-4 points for that home. So Bama -9 on a neutral, that sounds about right. That's not that, I don't think that's disrespectful for how Mizzou has played this year. But these lines are coming out, and if you want to bet, here's some great place to get
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the voice of college football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the voice of college football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.
Love that because I can use that for a water break. I just saw that OU announced Jackson Arnold, so he'll be the starter in Columbia in 3 weeks. But I think we've touched on a lot. I mean, I'm sure there's more things we could talk about, but man, it's going to be about explosives. I don't think Bama's offense is good enough where if you make them drive, and I don't think Milrow's good enough, where if you make them drive, they're going to consistently be, and this is no college offense, to be honest, consistently going to be able to go 10, 11 plays and score. And that goes for Mizzou too. Mizzou's offense in that environment, there's going to be a false start. There's going to be a hold. There's going to be delay again or just something goofy. And Mizzou, when they've gotten behind the sticks this year, haven't been that good. That's why their offense has been really middling. Explosives are important in college football. They're important in the NFL too, but you don't see them as much because of the hashes and the better player, whatever. But Mizzou's going to have to hit probably, I don't want to put a number on it, but last week against Auburn, Brady Cook played 5 drives and scored 18 points on those drives. They had 5 plays of 15-plus yards. Now, 15-plus, you probably need to double that. Now, of course, Brady Cook did that in a quarter and a half, and Auburn's defense is pretty okay. So I think you probably will have to double that to really have a chance to win this game. But what, 18 points on 5 drives? That's almost 3.5 points per possession. That if you exploit that to 10 possessions, that's 30 points. That's not how things work. But I think we talked about this with the UMass game. There was a couple throws to Norfleet at the end that made me wonder, has it clicked? Has this offense clicked? Because those were two really nice throws, and one was a deep shot. And sometimes it just takes a couple throws. Last year against Kansas State, that deep ball to Burton. After that, Cook played unbelievable for that was week 3. He was unbelievable against K-State. He was unbelievable against Memphis. He was really good against Vandy. He was really good against LSU. And then, struggled a little bit against Kentucky. But if we get K-State, Vandy, LSU, Brady Cook tomorrow, or on Saturday, I keep saying tomorrow, good Lord, we're going to have a game. If Mizzou can get to 30 points, which I don't know if they can because they haven't all year except for an overtime game against Power 5 teams. If they can get to 30, they're going to win. Because, if they get to 30, that means less opportunity for Bama to score. So it's going to kind of, Mizzou goes this way, Bama goes this way, Bama goes this way, one of those things. I know I said 34-24, but if Mizzou scores 30 points, I don't think Bama's scoring 34 points. Can the running game just be productive? The Mizzou running backs are not the Sampson and the rest of the Tennessee running backs. They're just not. But if they can stay productive, if Noel is healthy, we need a big week out of Membu, Johnson, and Tollison. Tollison was not very good last week if you look at PFF. I don't know how to grade line play, so I just kind of use what I have. But Tollison wasn't great. He needs to be this weekend. It's going to be allowed. No bad snaps. Please, for the love of God, no bad snaps. Caden Green, was a top 100 kid. Show why, man. This is a weekend to play show out. If Mizzou shows out and wins, you're right back in the thick of it. And the conversation now goes from, man, Mizzou's really struggled this year. I know they're 6-1, but I don't really take them that seriously. Kind of like what we do with Pitt, because Pitt hasn't beaten anybody. Pitt hasn't been convincing, and they've got a fun game against Syracuse. Pitt hasn't been convincing in any of their wins this year. Can Mizzou do it? This isn't a top 5 Bama team. This is a top 20 Bama team. If there was ever a year, this is it. As David said, give that Georgia speech, man. And they lost that game. So, maybe not that exact speech, but they can't kill us. You've already seen what the bottom looks like. You went 6-6, and you were not good. And it was bad. It was a bad 6-6. Because you played in the SEC East. Cool, you beat Vanderbilt. You squeaked by Florida once. Maybe you beat South Carolina. You didn't beat anybody that good. Oh, you beat Arkansas. Woohoo. You beat Chad Morris a couple times. I don't know. Eli wasn't around for Chad Morris. But, yeah, man, this is a burn the bridges, get out there, and win a football game. Your O-line's better than Tennessee's. They can do this. Now they won't have Knoxville behind them like they did, but they can do this. I'm super excited. 2:30, you can catch me here right after the game is over, and we'll do some post-game. We'll start talking about it and what happens. Again, I have Alabama winning, but they could do this, guys. That's the message I want to give. There's enough holes in that Bama team where Mizzou should be strong at wide receiver. Mizzou can do this. So you guys enjoy the week. It's going to be a great weekend of college football. 2:30 kick on ABC. I'll be watching. Mizzou basketball gets going, and I think Mizzou basketball is going to be pretty good this year. I don't know if they're a tournament team, but I think Mizzou basketball is going to be pretty good too. So MIZ, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have a great week. I will see you on Saturday, hopefully for the biggest win in Mizzou football in over a decade.